The moment I heard my disabled daughter scream from inside that dark storage shed, my heart nearly stopped. 1 second she was beside me, the next HOA, Karen had slammed the door shut and turned off the breaker, trapping her in total darkness. My little girl, who cannot see in the dark at all because of her visual impairment, was pounding on the wooden walls, crying, begging for help. And Karen? She just stood there smirking, arms crossed, saying, "Maybe this will teach her to stop breaking HOA rules." I ran toward the shed, but before I could reach it, Karen blocked my path, her voice cold and sharp. "Touch me, and I'll make sure you're removed from this neighborhood permanently." She had no idea who she was threatening or what I was capable of, and she definitely didn't expect what would happen next, because that night everything changed. Before I take you into the night, everything went wrong. Let me ask you something real quick. Which city are you watching this video from? Comment your city down below. I always love seeing how far our little community reaches. And hey, before we dive into this story, make sure you hit that subscribe button because what you're about to hear, you won't believe how fast things escalated. All right, let's begin. My daughter, Lily, has lived her whole life with a severe visual impairment. Bright places, daytime soft lighting she manages. But darkness? Darkness steals her entire world. The moment light disappears, so does her ability to navigate, understand where she is, or even sense danger around her. That's why I'm always extra cautious, always watching out for her. We moved into this HOA-controlled neighborhood, hoping for peace, quiet streets, safe sidewalks, friendly neighbors. And at first, that's exactly what it felt like. But peace is only real when the people around you have hearts, and some people hide the deepest cruelty behind fake smiles and rule books. Karen, the HOA president, had been on our case since the day we arrived. From where Lily sat on the porch to how loudly she breathed walking to school, Karen had a complaint for everything. And despite her fake politeness around others, she had a peculiar hatred toward my daughter. Maybe it was the disability, maybe it was the attention Lily needed, or maybe Karen just hated anything she couldn't control. But nothing prepared me for the night. She crossed the line from harassment into pure, unforgivable cruelty. Because trapping a visually impaired child in the dark isn't just an HOA issue. It's not just bullying. It's dangerous, life-threatening, evil. And Karen had no idea who she was picking a fight with. The evening started beautifully, almost peacefully, like the neighborhood itself was trying to lull me into a false sense of security. The sun was setting behind the line of identical HOA-approved houses, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink. Lily was holding my hand, swinging it playfully as we walked back from the community park. She had her little white cane tapping the sidewalk, rhythmically, the sound echoing through the calm suburban air. "Daddy, did we beat the dark home?" She giggled, lifting her nose to the sky, the way she always did when she tried to feel the world through senses that weren't her eyes. I smiled. "Barely. You and your cane were too fast for the sunset." She laughed, but even her laugh was different in the evenings. A tiny bit nervous, a tiny bit aware. Because for her, nightfall wasn't just the end of the day, it was the start of blindness. Her condition made her extremely sensitive to low light. Once the brightness disappeared, she might as well have been dropped into an empty void. So every evening we walked home early. Every evening we turned on the porch lights. Every evening I made sure nothing and no one got her way. But that night, someone did. The moment we reached our driveway, I saw her. Karen, standing with her arms crossed, clipboard in hand, lips pursed like she'd just smelled something rotten. "Great, I thought. Here we go again. You're late," she barked before we even stepped onto our own grass. I frowned. "Late for what? We don't have a meeting." She tapped her pen against the clipboard aggressively. "Your daughter left her scooter on the porch this morning. That violates the HOA safety presentation rules. Page 9. I blinked. "Karen, she doesn't even have a scooter." Karen scoffed, ignoring the truth like always. "You need to learn responsibility as a parent. Children with circumstances," she glanced at Lily with a look I hated, "need extra supervision." Lily squeezed my hand a little tighter. I crouched beside her. Go ahead inside, sweetheart. I'll be right behind you. She nodded and walked toward the front door, tapping her cane slowly. She always slowed down in the evenings. Her confidence faded with the light. But before she got far, Karen stepped forward and blocked the walkway with her leg. Hey! I barked. Move. Karen raised her chin higher. Your child needs to learn to follow the community layout. Sidewalks are for walking, not zigzagging. My blood boiled. She has low vision. You know that. You've been told 100 times. And I've said she needs to adjust, Karen snapped. Not the community. I stepped forward, squeezing the handle of Lily's cane in my fist. Move. Now. Karen moved back with a dramatic sigh. Fine, but you two need to start respecting rules. We went inside, and I locked the door behind us. My hands were still shaking with anger as I helped Lily take off her shoes. She smiled softly as if nothing happened, but I knew she felt more than she showed. We spent the next hour making dinner, laughing over her school stories, and pretending Karen didn't exist. But as the evening got darker, Lily drifted to the living room where it was brighter. She hated the hallway near the garage. It always felt shadowy to her. Around 8:30 p.m., I remembered I had left my jacket in the car. Lily, stay inside, okay? I'll just be a minute. She nodded, hugging her stuffed bunny. I stepped outside. It was fully dark now. I clicked my car fob, opened the door, grabbed the jacket, and when I turned back toward the house, the porch light was OFF, and Lily was gone. I froze. Lily? I called out sharply. No answer. I looked down the sidewalk. Nothing. I looked at the yard. Nothing. Then I heard it. A tiny, muffled knock. A whimper. A scared, trembling whisper. Daddy? Daddy, where are you? It was coming from the side of the house. My heart leapt into my throat. I ran toward the sound, and then I saw it, the small wooden HOA storage shed near the community fence. Its door was shut. A padlock hung loosely from the latch, open but hooked shut, easy for someone to close quickly, without needing a key. And behind that door, my daughter was crying. I grabbed the handle and yanked. It didn't budge. Lily, I'm here. Stay calm. Her tiny palms slapped the inside of the door in panic. Daddy, I can't see anything. It's all dark. I don't know where I am. God, my chest collapsed. Then a voice, cold, gloating, venom-filled, spoke behind me. She shouldn't be wandering where she doesn't belong. Karen, standing there in the dark, holding the shed's padlock key, her mouth twisted into a satisfied smirk. What did you do? I roared. She shrugged as if swatting a fly. She wandered too close to the equipment shed. It's not safe for kids to roam at night, especially kids like her. I stepped forward, fists clenched. Open the door. Karen lifted her chin. Not until you agree to sign the behavioral compliance form. I warned you too many times. Maybe a few minutes in the dark will teach her to stay out of trouble. Minutes. I snarled. She can't see anything in there. She's terrified. Consequences, Karen said coldly. We all need to learn them. Lily was crying harder now. Daddy, please. Please come. Something inside me snapped. I lunged forward, but Karen blocked me, stretching out her arms like she owned the entire neighborhood. If you touch me, she hissed, I'll call the police and report you for aggression. And trust me, this community will believe me. Not you. I stepped back, my jaw trembling with rage. Karen thought I was just another powerless parent she could bully. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know what I used to be trained for. She didn't know the line she had just crossed. I took a deep breath, my mind shifting into a place I hadn't been in years. Because rescuing my daughter wasn't just a father's duty now, it was a mission. And that shed, that darkness, that fear in her voice, Karen had no idea what she had started, but she was about to find out. Karen stood there like she was carved out of stone, unmoving, unfeeling, absolutely convinced she had the authority to terrify a disabled child in the name of rules. The porch lights, the shed, The path between us, everything was swallowed in darkness except for the faint glow coming from a distant street lamp. That's when I realized something chilling. Karen had planned this. She waited until I stepped outside. She turned the porch light off. She cornered Lily and forced her toward the shed. She shut the door behind her. And then she removed the breaker key. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was intentional cruelty. I tried to open the shed again, putting every ounce of strength in my hands, but the latch held tightly. I could hear Lily gasping for breath inside, her fear turning into pure panic. "Daddy, it's too dark. I can't tell which way is the floor," she cried, her voice shaking. "Hold on, baby. I'm right here." I shouted, pressing my head against the wooden door. Behind me, Karen sighed dramatically. "See, she's overreacting. Kids do that. She'll be fine." "Fine." I snapped. "She can't see anything in there. She navigates by light, by contrast, and you've trapped her in a black box." Karen rolled her eyes. "Then she should learn not to wander into HOA property. You dragged her." I barked. "You turned off the light. My daughter doesn't walk that way. She stays by the porch. You targeted her." Karen smirked. "You can't prove that." The arrogance in her voice, it was unbelievable. She had mistaken my silence for fear, my restraint for weakness. She genuinely thought she was holding power over me. Little did she know, I had dealt with far worse than an HOA president with a god complex. I pulled out my phone. "Open the shed right now, or I call 911. Karen crossed her arms with confidence. "Go ahead. Tell them what? That your daughter wandered into a community maintenance area? They'll tell you it's your responsibility." I took a step closer. "You trapped her deliberately. That's unlawful confinement." Karen shrugged. "She's a child. Children exaggerate. And with her condition, who's going to believe she didn't just walk in there herself?" Ah, there it was. The ugly assumption. Karen was banking on the world dismissing a disabled child's testimony. She thought Lily's limitations made her less credible, less human. My jaw clenched as I stared at this woman who thought she could rewrite truth by talking loudly enough. "You're not as smart as you think," I said softly. She scoffed. "Please, you've been here for 2 months. I've run this HOA for 6 years. I know every rule, every loophole, every board member. No one's going to help you." She raised the key like a trophy, signed the compliance document, and I'll let her out. The truth hit me harder than her words. Karen wasn't just hungry for power, she was addicted to it. She wanted control. Total, absolute control. Even if that meant traumatizing a child. And she genuinely believed she'd get away with it. I forced myself to breathe steadily. I had to keep my mind sharp for Lily. Inside, I heard her crying harder now, hitting the walls desperately. She must have been disoriented, unable to tell where the door was. My heart cracked hearing her. "Lily, listen to my voice?" I said gently, even though my veins burned with rage. "Keep talking to me so I know you're okay." Her trembling voice answered, "Daddy, it's too dark. I can't see anything. Are you there?" "I'm right here," I whispered, never taking my eyes off Karen. Karen tapped her foot. "Clock's ticking. Sign it or keep crying. Up to you." That was it. Line crossed. No going back. This wasn't an HOA dispute anymore. This was abuse. This was psychological torture. And I would burn the entire foundation of the HOA to the ground before letting her keep power over my child. "Karen," I said calmly, "you know what's crazy?" Her eyebrows twitched. "What? You really think you know who you're dealing with?" Karen laughed. "A frustrated father? A rule breaker? A man who can't handle living in a community with standards?" I stepped closer. "No, you're dealing with someone trained to see through people like you." She scoffed. "Oh, please spare me." But her smirk faded for the first time. A tiny flicker of uncertainty broke through. "You think you hold all the cards," I continued, voice steady. "But the truth is, you've already lost." "Ow," she snapped. "Because you made one fatal mistake," I said. "You touched my daughter." For the first time, she looked nervous. "You don't scare me," she said weakly. "You should," I whispered. I dialed a number, not 911, but one I hadn't called in years. Karen watched, confused but still too arrogant to be afraid. The person on the other end answered immediately. "Yeah, it's me," I said quietly. "I need a noise complaint recorded for the corner property on Maple Drive. And unauthorized detainment. Child involved." There was a beat of silence. Then the voice responded, "Understood. Want us to swing by?" "No, just document it. I'll handle the physical part." Karen blinked. "Who was that?" "A friend." I said. "What friend?" she demanded. "A friend who outranks your entire HOA board combined." She stiffened. "Is that a threat?" "No," I said, stepping closer. "A promise." Karen swallowed, backing up an inch, but she still clutched the shed key, still convinced she had leverage. "What exactly do you think you can do?" she hissed. Before I could respond, a loud thud came from inside the shed. "Daddy!" Lily sobbed. "I fell. I can't find the door. I don't know where the floor is." She was disoriented, panicked. The darkness had completely blinded her senses. That sound broke something in me. I turned back to Karen. "Last chance. Open it." Karen's lips thinned. "Sign the document." I exhaled slowly. "Okay." Karen's eyes lit up with victory. "Give me the papers," I said. She reached into her folder, triumphant, and pulled out a clipboard. That's when I made my move. Not violent, not reckless, but trained, exact, controlled. I stepped forward, snatched the key from her hand before she even realized I'd moved, and shoved past her. "HEY," she screamed, but it was too late. I jammed the key into the lock, twisted, pulled the shed door open, and Lily collapsed into my arms, shaking uncontrollably. I held her tight. "I've got you, baby. You're safe now." But as I lifted her, feeling the tremble in her body, I turned back toward Karen, who looked shocked, offended, powerless. That's when she said the words that sealed her fate. "This isn't over. You assaulted me. I'll have you removed from this neighborhood." I looked at her, calm and steady. "No, Karen," I said. "This is just beginning." Lily clung to me like her life depended on it, her tiny fists gripping my shirt, her sobs breaking against my shoulder. I could feel her heartbeat pounding violently, the terror still shaking through her body. I gently brushed her hair back, whispering, "It's okay. Daddy's here, you're safe now." But inside I was boiling. A quiet, controlled fury, the kind that doesn't explode, it calculates. Karen stepped back, sputtering with theatrical offense. "Why you just snatched the key from me? That's illegal. I could press charges. I will press charges." Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with outrage that her control had slipped. People like her didn't fear consequences. They feared losing power. I lifted Lily into my arms, steadying her breathing. "You terrorized a disabled child," I said coldly. "You locked her in a pitch-black shed. You crossed federal disability laws. You crossed moral lines. And you dare talk about charges?" Karen's face twisted. She wandered. She caused a disturbance. "The HOA has rules." "Rules don't give you permission to harm children," I snapped. Karen opened her mouth, then closed it again, jaw clenched. That's when her eyes shifted. Not at me, not at Lily, but toward the side gate leading into the neighbor's yard. A flicker of panic, a glint of calculation, a secret exposed in a single glance. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried someone might have seen what she did. I narrowed my eyes. "Who are you looking for, Karen?" She stiffened. "None of your concern." I stepped forward. "It is my concern." Her mask cracked, just for a second, enough for me to see it. There was more going on than an HOA power trip. Much more. She regained her fake composure. "Listen," she said sharply, "I'm calling an emergency HOA meeting. Your behavior tonight, your aggression, your violation of community boundaries will be discussed. You should start packing." I laughed under my breath. "You think a committee can protect you?" Karen straightened her shoulders. "It has before." Ah, there it was. The confession she didn't realize she'd made. Karen wasn't just confident, she was backed, protected, shielded. By who? A board member? Someone with influence? Someone whose secrets she was guarding, or whose dirty work she was doing. As I walked Lily inside, my mind sharpened. Karen wasn't acting alone. She was enforcing someone else's agenda. And the shed, the lights, the timing, it all felt rehearsed. Not spontaneous cruelty, but something planned. I carried Lily to the couch, turned on every light, wrapped her in a blanket, and held her till her trembling slowed. "Daddy, why did she lock me in?" she whispered, her voice breaking. My heart cracked again. "Because she's cruel, sweetheart. But she'll never hurt you again. I promise." She nodded weakly, her eyes unfocused even under the bright lights. "Toothbrush, bathroom, too dark," she whispered, panic rising again. I rubbed her back. "You don't have to move from here tonight. Stay right beside me." She relaxed slightly, though her breath still hitched occasionally. When she finally drifted to sleep, I stepped outside again. Karen was still there, waiting. This time, she wasn't alone. A man stood with her, tall, well-dressed, expensive watch, hair slicked back. Not a neighbor, not someone from around here, and definitely not someone who belonged at an HOA complaint scene. The moment he saw me, he tensed, like a guard dog noticing a threat. Karen gestured toward me smugly. "That's him. That's the man who attacked me." The man studied me with a cold intensity. "You touched her." I met his gaze without blinking. I took a key out of her hand to save my terrified child. "If that bothers you, take a number and get in line." His jaw tightened. "You're new here. You don't understand how this community works." "Enlighten me," I said. He stepped closer. "Karen enforces order. We support her completely. If she says you're a problem, you're a problem. Is that right?" I asked quietly. Karen smirked, folding her arms triumphantly. "See, I told you. No one will side with you." The man continued. "This neighborhood values compliance. Stability. Image. We don't allow disruptions." There it was, image. Not safety. Not fairness. Not community. Image. People who said things like that often had something ugly hiding underneath. "What happened tonight will disappear," the man added. "Let it go. Sign Karen's document. Apologize. And we'll forget this happened." Forget? Forget she locked Lily in the dark? Forget Lily screaming in terror? Forget Karen smirking as my daughter begged for help? "Not happening," I said firmly. The man's eyes narrowed. "You're making a dangerous choice." I took a step forward. "You have no idea what danger looks like." Karen leaned closer to him. "He thinks he can take us on." The man lowered his voice. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "Oh," I said, "but I do." Because in that moment I recognized him. His face, his voice, his body language. I knew exactly who he was. He wasn't from the HOA. He wasn't from the neighborhood. He was from the legal office tied to the community's developer company, the one who controlled property values, budgeting, and the kind of deep connections HOAs usually hide behind. This wasn't just Karen's ego. This was a cover-up, a system protecting itself, a system that viewed my daughter as an inconvenience, a system that thought I would bow. "Wrong. You have 24 hours, the man said coldly. "Cooperate, or this gets messy for you." Karen's grin widened. "And trust me, we know how to make it messy." I didn't blink. "Do what you need to do." I stepped back inside, but before closing the door, I looked Karen dead in the eye. "You hurt my child," I said quietly, "and I will uncover every secret, every lie, every dirty deal you're protecting. This isn't over." Karen's smile faltered for the first time. The door clicked shut. Inside, Lily slept curled tightly under the blanket, her breathing uneven. I knelt beside her and whispered the promise I intended to keep. "No one will ever trap you in the dark again." Because I was done reacting. Now, I was going to investigate, and I was going to expose Karen's entire hidden agenda, no matter how far it went, or how many people she had protecting her. I barely slept that night. Every time Lily shifted in her sleep, my eyes opened instantly. Every small breath, every little whimper pulled me back to that image of her trapped in the shed, terrified, disoriented, shivering in the dark. I sat on the edge of the couch, watching over her like a guard on duty, my mind racing through possibilities, patterns, and motives. Karen wasn't just a bully, and this wasn't just an incident. There was a purpose behind her cruelty, and I needed to find it. By sunrise, I had made coffee, prepared Lily's breakfast, and reviewed everything I had mentally recorded the night before. Every look, every word, every threat. The suited man especially. He was the key. Not from the neighborhood. Not from the HOA board. His shoes alone cost more than Karen's entire wardrobe. His presence at night, right after the incident, meant he wasn't called, he was already nearby. That meant surveillance. That meant coordination. That meant this wasn't coincidental, but a planned warning. A message. Someone wanted us intimidated. But why? For what? I needed answers. Once Lily was settled, watching cartoons, something bright and colorful to counteract last night's terror, I slipped into my office and closed the door quietly. I powered up my old laptop, the one I hadn't used since leaving my previous line of work. The kind of work Karen's little HOA kingdom had no clue about. I connected to secure channels, encrypted searches, private networks, old contact directories, the kind of resources the average suburban parent wouldn't have access to. Within minutes, I traced the man Karen brought onto the scene. His name, Nathan Porter. Occupation, attorney for Redwood Development Group. Role, lead legal advisor for HOA acquisitions and community expansion. Reputation, quiet, calculated, known for silencing complaints. Redwood Development Group, the company that built our neighborhood. I leaned back in my chair. It clicked. Karen wasn't just an HOA president drunk with power. She was an asset, a willing enforcer, a loyal puppet silencing disruptions before they hurt the company's image. So, Lily wasn't just a target of Karen's cruelty. She was a threat to Karen's perfect record. A record she likely bragged about to Redwood to keep her position safe. The shed incident wasn't random. It was Karen putting us in our place. A demonstration. A scare tactic. But Karen had underestimated two things. A parent's determination. My background. At noon, after Lily ate and curled up with her stuffed bunny, I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood. I needed eyes on every angle, the shed, the breaker box, the path Lily took, the cameras. Yes, cameras. Karen loved recording violations. She had cameras everywhere. But she wasn't smart enough to point them at her own crimes. I took photos, measured distances, and mentally marked blind spots. That's when I saw something I hadn't noticed before. A small patch of scuff marks along the fence near the shed. Not Lily's cane. Not from her shoes. It looked dragged, forced. Someone had physically cornered her. And there was only one person with motive. Karen. I took more photos. Then I noticed something even more suspicious. A small surveillance camera installed on the neighbor's gutter facing the shed, hidden under decorative ivy. The neighbors weren't home, so they didn't install it. Karen did. But why hide it unless she knew something might happen there? Because she used that shed often. Because she had done this before. My stomach twisted. How many other children had she bullied into silence? How many families had unexpectedly moved out after conflicts with her? This wasn't a first-time offense. This was a pattern. When I returned home, Lily was sitting quietly with her bunny, her face pale, but calmer. "Daddy, is she going to come again?" she asked nervously. I knelt beside her. "Not if I can help it." Her fingers tightened around mine. "I don't want darkness anymore." "You won't face it alone," I promised. Her lip trembled, but she nodded. I made her a warm drink, sat her with me at the table, and kept everything light for her sake. But deep down, every second strengthened my resolve. Karen had built her entire life's identity on dominance, control, fear, manipulation. That ended now. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the houses, I heard loud footsteps outside. When I checked the window, I saw Karen walking toward the community bulletin board, holding new flyers. I stepped outside. Karen froze like she saw a ghost. "What do you want?" she snapped. "Conversation," I said. "Just a few questions." "I don't owe you anything," she huffed. "You owe my daughter the truth." Karen scoffed, plastering a flyer onto the board. It read, "Mandatory Safety Review. Due to recent child misconduct, we will be enforcing stricter neighborhood behavior guidelines." Child misconduct. Strict enforcement. She wasn't apologizing. She was rewriting reality. "You're unbelievable," I said quietly. She sneered. "Parents like you move in and think you can change the entire system. You can't." "I'm not here to change the system," I said. "I'm here to expose it." She stiffened. "You really think you can fight us?" she said. "The HOA, Redwood, the entire community?" "I don't think," I said. "I know." Her face twisted with anger. "You don't have proof." "Yet." Her jaw tensed. "You're going to regret this," she threatened. I stepped closer. "No, Karen. You are." That night, after Lily fell asleep, I pieced together every detail, every photo, every recorded threat. I organized them into a secure digital file. A file with a backup. A file that couldn't be erased. A file that could destroy Karen's entire career and Redwood's protection along with it. Then, using my old contacts, I made a call to someone who would recognize my voice immediately. "Hey," the person said. "Been a long time." "Too long," I replied. "I need your help. A child was targeted. My child." Silence. Then, "What do you need?" "Information," I said. "Records. Complaints. Anything tied to this HOA or Karen." "Send me the details," my contact said. "Give me 24 hours." Exactly what I needed. Exactly enough time. Because the truth was coming. And Karen had no idea it was headed straight for her. By morning, the neighborhood felt different, quieter, heavier, like the air itself knew something was coming. I woke up early, made breakfast for Lily, and tried to keep the morning routine normal for her sake. But inside, I was wired, alert, waiting for the message that would determine everything. At 9:12 a.m., it came. A notification flashed on my phone from my old secure channel. "Package delivered. Check your inbox." My pulse sharpened. I stepped into my office, closed the door, and opened the email. There it was, a zip folder titled, "Redwood HOA Karen Files." Inside were dozens of documents, voice memos, archived complaints, deleted reports, and something far worse than I expected. A list of families forced to leave. Not suggested. Not asked. Forced. Families with special needs kids. Families who questioned HOA decisions. Families who asked about ADA compliance. Families who didn't fit Karen's perfect image. And the notes beside each name were horrifying. Non-compliant child. Parent confrontational. Repeated rule violations. Not good for community brand. Recommend removal. Recommend removal. It wasn't just bullying. It was strategic displacement. Karen and Redwood were filtering the neighborhood to make it look perfect for property investors, disabled children, diverse families, outspoken parents. They were inconveniences, and Karen's weapon wasn't just rules. It was fear, intimidation, harassment, incidents that conveniently push families to move. My daughter wasn't the first target, but Karen made a mistake. She picked a family that would fight back. Around mid-morning, a neighbor knocked on my door, Mrs. Alvarez, a kind, elderly woman who always offered Lily flowers. She looked around nervously. "Can I talk to you? Inside? Please?" I let her in. She wrung her hands. "I saw what happened last night. I saw Karen. She dragged your daughter. I didn't know what to do." My chest tightened. "Why didn't you call for help?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Because Karen threatened us months ago. She said if we interfered with HOA procedures, she'd have us fined so badly we'd have to sell our home." I swallowed hard. "You're scared of her." She nodded. "We all are." I leaned forward. "Mrs. Alvarez, this isn't just about fines. She terrorized my child." "I know," she whispered, "and yours won't be the last unless someone stops her." I brought up my laptop and showed her one page from the file, names crossed out, families gone. Mrs. Alvarez gasped. I knew it. I knew people weren't moving for better schools. They were being pushed out. "We're going to expose her," I said, "but I need witnesses." She hesitated. Then she took a deep breath. "I'll tell the truth." Her courage, after months of fear, meant everything. That afternoon, I drove Lily to school personally and stayed until she walked inside safely. She still held my hand longer than usual, gripping tightly as if the daylight itself wasn't enough to comfort her. "Daddy, is Karen gone now?" she asked softly. "Soon," I whispered. She nodded, reassured in that innocent way only children can be. And I swore again I would not fail her. When I returned home, I found something taped to my door. A bright red HOA violation notice. Of course. I yanked it off and read it. "Your lawn length exceeds community standards. Failure to address this will result in daily fines." My lawn was trimmed yesterday. Perfectly. Professionally. Karen wasn't even trying to hide it now. She wanted conflict. She wanted escalation. She wanted me overwhelmed with pressure, so I'd crack. But the problem with people like her? They always underestimated the wrong person. I took a picture of the notice and added it to my file. At 2 p.m., my secure phone buzzed again. Another message from my contact. "You need to see this." Attached was an audio recording. I pressed play. Karen's voice filled the room. "That little girl is going to ruin everything. If she can barely see, she shouldn't be here. Families like that bring down property value. Make the neighborhood look weak. I'm not having it on my record." Then Nathan's voice. "Then handle it, quietly, before the board meets again." Karen replied, "Oh, I have a plan. Parents like them don't last long once you make their lives difficult enough." My stomach twisted. This wasn't just planned. It was premeditated discrimination, and I now had undeniable proof. I forwarded the audio to 3 backups. Karen's downfall was no longer a question, it was a countdown. At 4 p.m., Lily was home again, doing homework at the kitchen table. I stayed close, checking cameras, rereading documents, preparing everything for what was coming next. That's when I got another knock at the door. I opened it and found Karen, Nathan, and 2 HOA board members standing on my porch. Karen smirked confidently, holding a thick packet. "This is your official removal notice," she announced. "You're being evicted from the neighborhood for aggressive behavior, community disruption, and endangering residents." I let out a laugh, sharp, humorless. "You're unbelievable," I said. "You have 72 hours to vacate," Nathan added coldly. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me slowly, and looked each one of them in the eyes. "That's interesting," I said calmly. "Because I have something for all of you, too." Karen scoffed. "What, another excuse?" I unlocked my phone, opened the audio recording, and pressed play at full volume. Karen's own voice spilled into the air. Her words, her intentions, her discrimination, her threat, her face drained of color instantly. The board members stared at her, horrified. Nathan's eyes widened. How did you get that?" I smiled coldly. "You have no idea what kind of man you picked to fight with." Karen stuttered. That's not real." I played it again, and again. Her world was collapsing right in front of her. "You targeted my daughter," I said. "You manipulated the HOA. You forced families out. You violated federal disability laws. And now the truth is out." The board members stepped away from her. "Karen, this is serious," one whispered. Karen's mask shattered completely. No, he's twisting things. He's lying," she screamed, panic clawing at her voice. Nathan tugged at her arm. "Karen, stop." But she slapped his hand away. "Don't you touch me. You said you'd protect me." The board members exchanged looks of disgust. I crossed my arms. Silent, calm, unmoved. Because I didn't need to yell. I already won. Karen was unraveling, and the entire neighborhood was about to witness her downfall. Karen's meltdown didn't happen slowly. It happened violently, like a dam bursting after years of pressure. The moment her own voice echoed through the neighborhood, exposing every poisonous intention she had tried so hard to hide, her composure shattered into dust. "No, that isn't me. That recording is fake," she shrieked, pointing at my phone like it was a loaded weapon. Her voice cracked with desperation. Her eyes wide with the kind of fear that only appears when someone realizes their power is slipping beyond reach. The two HOA board members, Jeffries and Ms. Thompson, looked at each other, their faces drained. Jeffries crossed his arms in disappointment, while Thompson shook her head slowly, stunned. Nathan, the lawyer who once smirked with confidence, now stood completely tense, clearly calculating the damage, trying to find a way to clean this mess before it spread beyond the cul-de-sac. But it was too late. The audio was out. The truth was exposed. The mask was off. "You framed families," I said calmly, keeping my tone measured for Lily, who was watching from the living room window. "You terrorized disabled children. You used HOA authority to bully people into leaving their homes. And you tried to trap my daughter in the dark for your own sick entertainment. I did no such thing." Karen screamed, her voice cracking mid-syllable. Nathan stepped forward, voice low and tight. "Karen, this is very serious. We need to handle this privately." "And oh," she snapped, spinning toward him, "you said you'd handle any complaints. You promised the board would protect me." Nathan paled, glancing at me. I noticed the shift. The fear wasn't for Karen's sake. It was for his own career, his firm, the developer's reputation. Redwood Development Group would never risk a lawsuit involving a disabled child, not in today's world. He knew this scandal could ruin them. Karen lunged toward him, gripping his shirt collar. "Fix this. Do something." Nathan pulled her off violently. "Let go." Jeffries stepped between them. "Karen, stop. You've crossed too many lines." "No," she shouted. "It's his fault." She jabbed a finger toward me. "He came here to destroy me." I raised an eyebrow. "You did that all by yourself." Her eyes flared with rage. "You think you're so smart? You think exposing me fixes anything?" "It fixes everything for my daughter," I replied. And that's when her face twisted into something monstrous, an expression that belonged to someone who had lived far too long believing they were untouchable. She lunged at me, not with a weapon, not with a plan, but with pure, unfiltered hatred. Her nails clawed the air as she rushed toward me, screaming incoherently. I stepped back calmly, shielding my phone but keeping my stance controlled. Nathan grabbed her from behind, restraining her as she thrashed like a wild animal. "Let me go! Let me go!" "He ruined everything," she shrieked. "Karen, stop!" Ms. Thompson shouted. "This is arrestable behavior." That word, arrestable, froze Karen mid-thrash. She stared at Thompson. "Why you wouldn't?" Thompson sighed. "You locked a disabled child in a dark shed. You took away lights, knowing she couldn't see. You verbally admitted to targeting families." Her voice softened only the slightest bit. "Karen, this is no longer HOA business. This is criminal." Karen's knees buckled. "Criminal," she whispered, as if the concept had never applied to her before. Her voice cracked. But I'm the president." "And now," Jeffrey said quietly, "you're suspended effective immediately." "No," Karen shook her head. "No, no, no." Nathan stepped away from her slowly, pulling his phone from his pocket. This time, he wasn't calling to save her, he was calling his firm. I watched as he muttered in a low voice, pacing quickly, glancing at me with anxiety each time he passed. He wasn't scared of me physically, he was terrified of what I had, undeniable evidence. For the first time, Karen stood alone, utterly alone. Her empire, her petty kingdom of rules and fines, was collapsing. She spun toward me suddenly. Her eyes were red, swollen, desperate. "Please," she whispered. The entire street seemed to freeze. "Please, don't do this," she begged, stepping toward me with trembling hands. I lost my temper last night, okay? But I didn't mean to hurt her. It was just frustration." I stared at her silently. "You understand," she continued, voice cracking. "You're a father. You know how stressful things get. I didn't want to ruin her life." "You didn't," I said quietly. "You just wanted to scare a little girl in the dark." Her face contorted. "And you wanted to scare families out of here," I continued. "You wanted a perfect neighborhood image, even if it meant destroying anyone who didn't fit." But she tried. "No," I cut in. "You don't get to rewrite the truth today." Karen sank onto the curb, sobbing into her hands. Not because she was sorry. Not because she felt guilt. but because she finally understood something she had never experienced before. Accountability. Minutes later, 2 police cars rolled into the neighborhood, lights flashing silently. They stepped out, asked a few questions, listened to the recording, examined the shed, and read statements. Mine, Mrs. Alvarez's, and eventually even the reluctant board members. Karen was handcuffed where she sat on the curb. Her screams echoed down the street as officers guided her toward the car. "You can't do this to me. You can't. I'm the HOA president. I have rights. I made this place what it is." But the officers didn't flinch. The neighborhood watched silently from windows and porches. And for once, Karen had no audience to intimidate. Nathan backed away slowly, his face pale. He walked toward me. We need to settle this privately," he murmured. "No," I said. "If you file charges," he continued cautiously. "Redwood Development could." "Could what?" I asked. "Lose a lawsuit? Lose investors? Lose the illusion that you protect families?" Nathan swallowed hard. "You messed with the wrong child," I said. "Her disability isn't a weakness, it's a protection. And I will use every law in the book to make sure nothing like this happens here again." Nathan took a step back. "I'll be in contact," he said before hurrying off. When the police cars drove away, with Karen screaming in the back seat, I finally exhaled. I walked back inside. Lily looked up at me from the couch, clutching her stuffed bunny. "Daddy, is she gone?" she whispered. I lifted her gently into my arms. "Yes," I said softly. "She's gone." "And she won't trap me in the dark again?" "Never," I promised, hugging her tight. "Because you shine brighter than anything she tried to take from you." She pressed her head to my chest, and for the first time since last night, she smiled. That moment was everything, because justice wasn't just served. It was seen, and the darkness Karen used to terrorize my daughter, it was gone for good. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you. Stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're reminders that every child deserves safety, justice, and a voice no matter what challenges they live with. And no parent should ever have to fight a battle like this alone. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Which city are you watching from? Have you ever dealt with someone abusing their power like Karen did? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. And if this story gripped you, shocked you, or made your heart race even once, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another emotional, powerful story like this one. Your support helps this channel grow, and it tells YouTube to push this story to more people who need to hear it. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay strong, and always stand up for what's right.